Welcome to ThriveCast, a community podcast series where we are meeting growth and engineering leaders from all over the world, practicing the very art of growth and monetization. With me, I have Kshitij Ingle from Bombay, and he's got a rich career. He's worked in at marketing at Ogilvy, Truecaller, MR, Netcore, and now working as a growth consultant, for many companies. Kshitij, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Gururaj. Thank you so much for inviting me over. Uh, it's wonderful to be a part of this. When I first heard about this, it was very interesting for me. So
Oh,
here I am.
absolutely. It's our pleasure. So, Kshitij, you have had a wonderful career. Could you tell us a little bit about your career? How did you go about, and how did you go about getting into growth? Tell us your journey
Sure,
as you stitched upon various career ladders and getting to growth consulting.
sure. So I started off with advertising at Ogilvy because what better way to start off your career after doing computer science, right? So I
Good.
got into advertising, and then after that, so my career progression usually was more of a problem solving process continuously. So I saw problems when I was doing media planning at Ogilvy in terms of the campaign management. So I got into digital marketing at Wonderchef, at some of the other companies I was working at on the digital marketing path. I found problems in product. So I went into product marketing, so to say, but eventually into product management. And then after that, it so happened that I was very drawn towards the growth levers of what make a good product. And I decided that it would be best to progress in that direction. And I've been going into a deep dive ever since. I think probably like the last 3 4 years, and then like working in terms of product growth for certain companies, consulting them on various challenges that they face.
That's wonderful. From an engineering background to marketing to growth consulting, that's a wonderful journey. Tell us a
Thank you.
little about as you're approaching these companies and consulting in them. What stages are they? Have they already achieved product market fit when they call you in? And tell us more about the conditions before you join them. What are their challenges at that time, and why are they reaching out to people like you?
So some of the so I have a few larger clients, so to say, who are Series D, Series E level in terms of their growth and funding. So obviously they have found product market fit, and they're looking to work on various growth challenges that their internal teams are not really able to give bandwidth to. So that is one kind of client that we have. And another would be a lot of them would be pre-product market fit, a lot of great ideas make for good product hunt launch pages, but everyone is trying to figure out if that business is going to make money. So these are the two, primarily the two categories that I'm working with. And there are a few now. There are a few Series A funded startups which are on the brink of finding product market fit or already have found it. So it's a very varied buffet of different kind of growth challenges with these three kinds of clients.
So they are in the survival mode, and they bring you to pull them out from the survival mode, get
Right,
into kind of a galvanized growth position.
right.
So I think, so have they usually reached product market fit? In maybe in your terms, could you describe what are you seeing? Uh, how would you define a product market fit for companies like these, especially if they've gotten to Series A or Series B? Uh,
Okay.
where do you see, what's the line that tells them, what's the event that tells them that, hey, now they have a product market fit. Now let's go into a GTM fit.
Right. So I think in a B2B context, net recurring revenue above a certain percentage. Again, that depends on the kind of industry that they operate in, the kind of solution that they're providing. For B2C, it's usually so I think this is very overdone, but your CAC to
Because
LTV ratios, things like that. But again, we also need to incorporate retention costs as well. So I think you do arrive at a formula based on your understanding of what the market is, but yeah, it's mostly related to what is the replenishment rate, in terms of money that you're spending and money that you're making.
interesting. So you help them understand about what is CAC and how do they operate it, and so on and so forth. So that's great.
So
Maybe that
I
starts off the. Sorry,
sorry,
go ahead.
sorry. I think they already understand these metrics pretty well. It's just about combining what is relevant for them.
So maybe let's start with the broader conversation, right? So you've worked in at least about four or five. You've consulted with four or five, mid-sized to large-sized
Yeah.
startups. Could you maybe describe, what's the general trends in the market when it comes to growth? What are your observations, especially, related to our topic? What is a growth stack that looks like? So when you come in, at these companies, and of course you might have a discovery phase and many other things, but
Yeah.
typically, what are the things that you observe from that particular company? How do you know to get the pulse of that particular company? Could you tell us a little more about maybe the broader industry trends, as well as how do you bring that broader industry trends and apply them to the consulting startups that you work with?
Right. So I'll start with B2B first, because both of them are very different in their approach. In B2B, I have seen that there is a lot of depth in terms of one growth stack that a company chooses to operate on. So be it a HubSpot or a Marketo or any tool that they've picked up, there usually seems to be an understanding of the business around the tool that they've chosen to operate on. It's unfortunately it's not the other way around. So a lot of team members are stuck up on what tool they are using and how they can implement solutions based on the tool that they are using. So I found this to be a very common problem. And in the B2C context, it's about, we have X number of tools. How do we operate them together?
Yeah. So,
So
so stitching, so what you're saying is when you go to these companies, especially with B2B,
yeah,
they start off with typically, maybe a marketing automation tool.
yeah,
And is that what you see mostly? They're mostly marketing and sales led, and then now you're
yes,
trying to help
certainly.
them.
Because sorry,
Yeah, so they are mostly marketing and sales led, right? And you help them to figure out how do you optimize on the direction that they are already going, or do you help
right.
them see a different path as well? I mean, these days, product
Uh,
led is becoming a buzz. So you help them, coach them on, hey, these are different techniques in the market. Tell us a little more about, as you are approaching this particular startup,
right.
their mindset, their challenges, their stacks that they have, and how do you help change, or maybe even optimize any of that?
Right. So my first task with most of the founders that I worked with in a B2B context is, I need to take them out of the marketing funnel. You know, uh, we need to help them to be able to see that there is so much more beyond the marketing funnel as well. Like, uh, although I agree that, converting, like getting prospects, converting them into, marketing qualified, sales qualified leads is important, and then communicating your product benefits, all of that is important. But there's so many other growth loops around it to make that happen and to make that process a lot more simpler. So, for example, when you look at only acquisition, you have your content loops which help make a more educated user approach you. You have more contextual stuff that you can provide to them. When you look at your paid ad loops, for example, a lot of them do not focus on the retention aspect. Where if people have done certain actions which mean something to you, they are not brought back in terms of remarketing, in terms of increasing engagement on your product, so that they can eventually convert. At least give them that chance. And the third loop, which is mostly missing, is your uh, advocacy loop, I would say. So
Hmm.
if having used this product, give me five different ways to share my joy with other people. So that is definitely missing in a lot of products, right? So my focus is to help uh, founders or help companies build this out, so that you can get more organic uh, bang for your buck, so to say. So we invest in systems which can help, which can run without money being put into it. You create a conducive environment for users to do certain actions, and give them merit points for those actions. And then you have like a scoring system which is full of moments of delight plus
Hmm.
moments of despair. You see what are the plus moments, you see what are the minus moments, and you keep continuing and refining and fine tuning that user journey based on that. So my focus is usually on helping founders you know take a look at these loops, for example, and also showcase to them what can be achieved if we execute these properly. So in a
Interesting. So,
yeah,
what you're saying is, if I summarize it, what you're saying is you help them, you coach them to understand a funnel is not the only way. As we
yeah,
move forward, loops are a better way for you to judge and grow your business.
yeah,
Uh, Tell me, maybe if you could describe maybe a simple case study, or maybe you worked with a specific
right.
company. Is it very difficult for them to is it very difficult for you to change their mindset that funnels are not the only thing? I mean, it's ingrained in people's head that
Yeah.
marketing and sales, if you put more dollars into that, you might have more revenue over a period of time. So, is that what it is, and is that what you're fighting generally with? Or is that the
Um,
tools, the stack that you're fighting with? What's the primary challenge?
so unfortunately, a lot of the tools are built around funnels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Currently. So, and it's going to be very difficult to tell people that hey, look, there is a new concept, or there's a different concept called a loop. Because if you're not able to visualize it, then it becomes really difficult. So my aim in the beginning is to help people realize what is happening, and help them reimagine that this can be looked at as a loop as well. uh, these could be different funnels put together, different actions happening together, but you try to look at them as one is providing fuel for the other one then further further boosts another action. So once you start looking at these things in that particular manner, uh, I think it does take a little time, but eventually, like, a lot of people are able to see that. And then once they see that in action, and once they see that how the different steps of this entire loop are coming together, they become more interested in what other loops that they can discover, and what are the other loops that they can invest their time and money in. So
So I'm guessing this would involve a lot of data collection, isn't it? This would. I mean, a funnel
yes,
kind of a data is a very, maybe you can generate it from a HubSpot, or or maybe even an Excel sheet that, hey, these are the number of leads you have. This is what the conversion rate. How do you take it from there to help them understand what is a loop? Do you have to go craft out a visual way of presenting this information to them?
yeah.
Tell us a little more about. I'm sure our listeners on the podcast might also be wondering, how do you go from funnel to loops? That's a very big change,
Right.
in mindsets, in tooling, in the way that people operate as well.
Right. So we go about by defining certain actions which are consequential in nature. I do action A and it leads to event B. So these again like are one to many connections in a lot of cases. What you do is you look at the user journey and you decide that you reduce the number of outcomes that are possible. In that way, I can then finally pin down that action A is leading to event B, and then events action C is leading to event D, but event B and action C are related with each other in some way. So once that starts to happen, and obviously it's an engineered approach, because if I currently work in the uh, the earlier loops, in the earlier funnel setup, then it will be very difficult for me to pinpoint this. So it's an engineered approach where you uh, have certain number of consequences for action A, and then based on that you go on to optimize for the next set of actions. And usually there are you will see like there is a clear pattern emerging of about 3 to 4 actions which help fuel each other. And the most important but the most challenging aspect is tying down action, uh, the last action, to the first event which was your fuel in the first place. So
Interesting. So could you recommend maybe some tools that you find in the market, to help, maybe tools, technologies, products, if you will, that help you kind of establish this base on looking at this particular action to reaction, cause to effect, kind of a mechanism that you've seen in the market?
So honestly, I don't use any tools for this. It's more of drawing out what are the actions of your business, what are the events of your business. Uh, I have certain templates and structures. So I would also suggest anyone who is listening to us to look at Reforge. Um, so Reforge has a bunch of beautiful templates, and those were really helpful for me early in my career. So I think those templates are no brainer in terms of how you can put things and information together. Obviously, I have my own twists on them now. Because as you keep learning, you find certain frameworks more useful as opposed to others. So yeah, I just put them down. Probably take up a Miro board or a collaborative whiteboarding tool. Sit down with different stakeholders, see what they are interested in, and then suggest loops based on what they would be wanting to work on.
Super. Maybe why don't we try out, maybe a simple rapid fire kind of a question,
Sure.
and the answers would probably be in the bucket of must have or nice to have, right? So we can probably,
Right.
calibrate this. Like for example, you said, funnel, nice to have now, but
Yeah,
loops must have,
certainly.
right? So something of that sort. Okay,
Yes.
so let's start with maybe the top of the things that people usually think about, especially in the founders and the growth managers. SEO, is it a must have or a nice to have?
It's a must have. No questions
Must
asked.
have.
Yes.
Uh, Product analytics, meaning helping them understand how customers or users are using their product. Is it a must have or nice to have?
So this would depend on the size of the company, where because I see a lot of smaller companies delving very deep into product analytics. Uh, they don't need to at that point.
Hmm.
At that point, they should be more concerned with if their product really works for the market. Do they have paying customers? I think those are the things that they need to worry about at that point. But as the company grows, as you run out of ways to grow, product analytics becomes more and more increasingly important, because that then gives you those opportunities, those different loopholes that you didn't probably spot earlier.
So what you're saying is small startups need not worry about product analytics. They
No, not
focus
really.
on paid customers. As they grow bigger, deploy product analytics to really understand your customer usage and then
Yeah,
drive.
but keep collecting data from the beginning. Yeah, that is important.
Got it.
Have historical
Now,
data.
yeah, let's go to the next question. Marketing qualified leads, must have or nice to have, especially in the B2B world.
In the B2B world, I think it would be a nice to have.
Nice to have.
Yeah,
That's
because
very different, right? I think you're coming with the mindset that that's a very funnel oriented approach, right?
right.
And the conversion rates must be very very small,
Yeah.
which is where don't spend a lot of time and energy towards MQLs. That's been interesting. Maybe a
So
subsequent question
I
to that:
okay.
uh, product led growth versus sales led growth. Is product led growth must have in the beginning of the startups, or what do you see out there in the market? Is it mostly sales led growth? How do you say product led
So
growth
I
must have?
okay. Irrespective of this, a good product will sell itself, right? So I think first focus on building a good product, and then depending on what kind of growth strategy you have in place, you can choose product led growth or sales led growth. So if you want to aggressively expand in a market and capture your piece of the pie, go for sales led growth, but then sustain it with product led growth.
Okay. Maybe
So
to describe that a little more, let's say if there's a startup which is before product market fit, hiring
yeah,
a sales, a sales rep, could be a
yeah,
sales engineer or an AE, must have or nice to have. This is before product market fit.
that's definitely nice to have.
Okay. Having a product that sells itself, meaning allowing users to automatically discover, sign up, to the product, try it out, mostly like the PLG kind of motions. Must have or nice to have?
I think that is must have.
That is must have now. Okay.
Yeah.
Hiring a
So
growth manager.
I also have some context to this, to your
Okay,
previous two
please do,
questions,
please do.
because it also depends on what stage of the funding cycle you're looking at. Do you need to convince your investors that you know enough about what you're building? So it's an added function related to the questions that they might be wanting to answer.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that. So what you're saying is, uh, to help your investors understand whether your business is growing or not. Are you seeing there is a trend in the market that startups go invest in PLG to really to attract investors and not to attract the customers? I mean, that's vividly very different than describe more.
Okay, you're going to make me spill more beans. Okay. Okay, so the thing is, PLG definitely for users, but everyone needs to present a picture that they are working on PLG, even if they are not. And PLG needs the person to be patient, right? Which is drastically opposite to what investors are looking at. So again, like there is this template PLG motions in place where you just bring your product, you look at certain actions, best practices that are happening, apply it to your product or service, and then move on from there. Because so I think it's the equivalent of adding generative AI to your product. You know, that is what is happening now. So need to be very careful of these two things now, because there's always going to be some trend or the other that's going to come and make you think about it, at least even if you're not bothered by it. So yeah, uh, PLG done correctly, raising funding is also difficult in these times. So
Okay.
what sets you apart from everyone else is something that is going to be looked at, right, in some way.
Yeah, I guess getting to investment is also an event for the founders and the leadership team. So maybe their way of describing that, hey, we would be product led, gets them a higher valuation. We will have generative AI, will have a higher valuation. That's interesting. It looks like it's still a checkbox. It's not yet in the DNA that that really leads to growth and higher valuations over time. One last
Right.
question in the rapid fire.
Yeah.
um, Experimentation, and maybe at a very broader scale,
Yeah.
allowing yourself to change your mind, to change your way of thinking based on what you look at the data. Is that a must have or a nice to have, especially in the early stages?
So I think you're going to be very bored with my answer, but my answer is going to be the same. Like, at early stages, find your product market fit. At later stages, experiment. Like, have this one team, have a very small team, maybe a subsection of the growth team. So the growth team is looking at the loops and ensuring that they are running fine. But you have like certain people who experiment at every point in time, and those people could keep changing. So let's say if I'm in the acquisition function, I could be working on an acquisition experiment, given that my retention, given that my other loops are working fine. So we can keep trading places. You can probably work on the retention experiment once I'm settling up the acquisition loop, or I'm very confident about the paid loop. So things like that. There
Okay.
should be definitely some amount of experimentation, but it again, like the company should have that kind of bandwidth to experiment, and early experimentation is not at all recommended.
Maybe that's why people employ people like you. Founders probably are looking for someone like you. You help them uh, stabilize their basics, and go from there. So
Yeah.
compliments to you, and the entire community around the practitioners. So at this moment, let's wrap up. So one last thing that you could recommend, maybe an early stage who is not who's looking to grow, but they are around the PMF journey. What would you advise them?
Okay. um, I think first would be like focus on building a good basic robust product. By that I mean not get too invested in what the colors of your website are or what your brand looks like, things like that. Just be focused on what users are going to do once they come to your website or once they come to your app. uh, See on what are the meaningful actions that they will do by themselves or need to be prodded into performing. Once you figure out those, make sure that getting to those actions is enjoyable, right? Because a lot of times we see people get frustrated to get to do those actions. So yeah, make those actions enjoyable. Then give them outcomes along with a cookie, in the sense that you give them what they expect, but you also give them what they would not have expected. uh, Based on that, have good pricing plans, uh, because a self-activated product is going to take you places. You don't need to invest in sales and support teams early on. So as much as possible, if they're able to experience the entire user journey by themselves, I think you have a winning product. uh, Now
That's
your next
that's a sage
query.
advice. That's a sage
Yeah.
advice, Kshitij.
Yeah.
I think to summarize it, invest in your product, make it bring value more to your end users and end customers before you figure out that you need to grow. So I think survival instinct should kick in at that time.
Yeah.
Again, it's a pleasure, Kshitij. We have run out of time, but it's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And I think to listeners, as you can tell, growth consultant like Kshitij are rare to find. They bring you down to the basics and get you to the very fundamental nature of how do you build products from ground up. Thank you Kshitij
Thank
for
you.
being here, and to our listeners, please chime in. One last question, Kshitij: how do
Yeah.
people reach out to you? Do you have
Yeah.
a
Yeah. I am working on my portfolio right now, so you can actually reach out to me on my mail. It's mail@ingle.work.
Mail at
So
English, so we can have it
yeah,
in our show notes there.
yes, and soon my website ingle.work will also be live. So right now it's just a standby page. I am working on my case studies, so you'll be able to see it soon.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you so much, Kshitij, and take care and best of luck for your for all the startups that you've been working with and for your career. Okay, take care.
Thank you so much.